Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dave Sebastian, coordinator of Mentoring Arts Programming with Wayside Youth and Family. I am here once again to get together with you guys and talk about doing some artwork. Um, we are going to work on airbrush stenciling today. Should be pretty cool. If you guys were with me yesterday, we made a couple of stencils for the leather jacket project. That went really well. I'm really excited about it. So we're going to continue working on that. We're going to see what kind of, we're going to try to add a couple of additional elements to it. See if, like just try to turn it around a little bit, try to do something a little bit more to it. Now, if you guys have seen the jacket, you know that there's already been quite a bit of work done on it. I'll show you the picture real quick. Here's what we've done so far on the back, which is kind of a lot. Here's what we did for one of the sleeves. Coming out really, really good. I'm having a great time with it. There's the two pieces together. So that's the back and the sleeve. It's been really, really cool. But now we have some negative space that we want to work in. And so we're going to, this time, we're going to do just a symbol, as opposed to hand-drawn stuff. The last two, obviously, were hand-drawn. The back was an airbrush setup, and then I painted on top of that with paint marker, the larger piece there of Cthulhu. And so this time it's going to be more of like kind of a straight stencil. We produced that particular stencil yesterday. Went pretty good. I'll show you guys what it looks like in just a moment. But that's where we're going. That's what we're going to do with that one. Today we're going to do a little like ode to H.P. Lovecraft, where we're going to cut a stencil of his face to add somewhere on the jacket, because since it's Cthulhu themed, we should probably have this guy represented. H.P. Lovecraft's amazingly cool character. He was writing in the 20s and 30s and creating some of the gosh darn scariest stories I've read for a long time. It's him and Junji Ito as far as like folks that have scared me. Compared to the entire world of horror. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of work on that stencil really quick, probably just cut that guy and show you guys the process for building a stencil in a simple sense. Then we're going to lay out and begin kind of isolating a stencil that I'm going to build for Chester Cheetah, the Cheetos character. I'm working on this RC truck. And I want to put Chester Cheetah up on the roof surfing, which is an image that I found online. And then the rest of the truck is going to be Cheetos themed, like a Cheetos off-road team or something like that. I think it's going to be cool, and I'm looking forward to it. Couple things that we have to do in the process of creating either of these. And a big one of them is a combination of Photoshop and Silhouette Studio. Before we get into that, I want to tell you real quick about my programs. I work with Wayside Youth and Family, which is a human service agency out of Framingham. They work with young adults and families to help them through whatever they need. We always consider it to be transitioning from a kid to a young adult to an adult. This is a challenging process, the world of transition. So these guys are helping. I work in a program called Tempo Young Adult Resource Center, which is at 68 Henry Street in Framingham. I have a basement studio there, and when we're allowed to, I'm in there doing an open studio program on Wednesdays and Fridays from 10:30 to 3. This is open to anyone who is 16 to 26. Come on down when we can. So we're trying to keep the spirit of that going by doing Facebook Live programs on Wednesday and Friday from 12 to 2. Those are for anyone, obviously, open to the public. We've done, about 30 of those. All of that is archived there on Facebook under the Greenhouse Graphics website. Greenhouse Graphics is the name of my program. Then, of course, we're here on YouTube, also at the Greenhouse Graphics YouTube channel. And what I'm trying to do is just keep this kind of stuff alive, right? So I do those open studio programs, and the rest of the week, traditionally, I would be in the community finding young adults and running programs with them. My mission is to bring arts programming to the young adults of Central Mass. And so that program is called TAG, the Art Group, and this is the virtual version of TAG. Right now I'm doing TAG on Tuesdays and Thursdays, in theory 1 to 3. I'm doing the best I can to keep that stuff going. It's sort of a, it's a battle occasionally, but we're getting in there. We are here today. And so this is what we're going to do today. I'm not sure how far through it we'll get. Like stencil making is not complicated, but it's a little bit on the time consuming side. So we'll get as far as we can. I'm hoping that we can get to paint, but if we, can't, then, it kind of is what it is, right? So we're going to go as far as possible, right? Cool. All right. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to get in and pick the artwork that we're going to use. So to do that, we're going to go into Safari and see what kind of stuff that we can find to use in our project. Just 1 second. All right, there we go. Cool. So this is, Safari. So the first, not that one. We're going to start with this one, which is an additional idea that I'm going to download just to show you how to download that, and then I have the other file kind of ready to go. So I've been looking for an additional Cthulhu piece to work on the other side of the jacket, or really just creating additional stencils for Cthulhu on the chance that I want to use them, right? This is a really cool symbol with some really strange writing and stuff around it, and it's a PNG, which is a good format. It's lossless and goes directly into Photoshop, no problem. So what we want to do as far as grabbing this image is two things. Number one, we want to take a look at the size that we have here, and if you look down here in this corner, it says 820 by 453. That's a pixel count. That's not too bad, but I kind of wish it was a little bigger. So we're going to check out going back a step. This one, well, we're going to show you how to download it, and then we'll go back and see what a better search method is, which I'm sure everybody probably knows, but I'm going to do it anyway. Excuse me. So you want to right click on this image and say save image to downloads, and there it goes. So that's how you grab the image. We're going to go in here and say Cthulhu symbol. We're going to get a bunch of different stuff. Stencil I made here yesterday is this one. Kind of a cool one. I think that's going to look really cool on the jacket. I actually used that one there. My outline is just a little bit bigger. I really like this one. In fact, this one is probably what mine will wind up looking like, with the exception of this one, which is also really interesting. This particular one is embroidered, but red instead of black. Is kind of interesting. Look at this, man, homemade. Anyway, that one's the one I used. So we're going to get over here and take a look and find the symbol that we had, which is this one right here. So up at the top, we want to click on tools to give us this pop-up, and we go in here and select large, right? So now it's giving us high pixel count images, which helps, because we really want as much of high definition as possible, so that we don't have to do anything significant to the artwork in Photoshop. Really just a little cutting up and moving around for the sake of creating a stencil, but not having to like adjust or bring up the you know, bring up the pixel count, which is notoriously messy. So, you know, we're going to try to do it a different way. So now it seems as though there is not a large version of that Cthulhu image. One sec, guys. Nothing's worse than when your music stops playing. Oh, look at that. Telling me I can't play my own music. It's not fair. All right. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, so there isn't another one that's high definition, you know, kind of. That's high pixel count. You know, these are some interesting symbols. Might be fun to put those in. This one looks too much like the biohazard symbol, but this one here is kind of an interesting one. Bunch of weird stuff like that. I think people are inventing that stuff, which is totally cool. I totally love that. So anyway, we weren't able to find another version of that guy, so we're going to go right in here and drop that guy away. Next thing we're going to look at is our Chester Cheetah image. There's an awful lot of Chester Cheetah images in here, and you can really look for whatever you want as far as Chester Cheetah. I like the slam dunk one. You know, unfortunately what there isn't is a ton of high action ones. And there is this foolish 3D one that they had in the KFC ads, and then of course this Funko Pop, all kind of, you know, whatever, or fan art stuff, which is also kind of cool. This one appears to be from some kind of cartoon, you know, about it, which is kind of awesome. And here's our same image that we're going to use upside down. So you see there's a lot, Minecraft, you know, simple line drawings, like, you know, there's a lot of Chester Cheetah stuff. But most of it is the same, you know, like there's not a lot of variety. You know, I wish there kind of was, but there kind of isn't. This one's pretty fun. I wish that they had a little bit more like that one. Yeah, this one's really funny. Look at that. That is zany, right? Seems to be about as high though. So anyway, we're gonna go back to where we were. There's a good running one. Go back up here where we had that other one. There we go. So what you do over here, same as we just did on the other one, is right click, save image to downloads. It has done that. And then we're done with Safari for right now. This right here is AstroPad. AstroPad is a software program that allows me to connect my iPad to my iMac for the input, right? You know, the using the iPad. This is the iPad Pro that I'm working with here. Whoops, let's try that again. So this is iPad Pro I'm working with right here, which is the 12.9 Generation 1. And so this one allows support of the pencil. You can see here I'm charging the pencil sticking out of the end. This is the worst design in the history of tech, but it does work, and no big deal, you know what I mean? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the AstroPad Studio to use as an input device into Photoshop. I'm not too bad drawing on a trackpad, but it's, you know, if you have another option, you know, go with the other option. Because it's much easier to draw with you know, with a pencil than it is to draw with a trackpad. You know, I wish it wasn't, but it kind of is. So this allows me to be able to use both my fingers and the pencil as an input device so that I can get in and really fine-tune selections. Photoshop, of course, is the master of selections anyway, so it's not like it really needs me. But I need it. You know what I mean? When there's things that I just can't select any other way. You know what I mean? So that's AstroPad. We're going to work with Photoshop, like I said. And this is our Chester Cheetah image. This is our other image. I guess I should tell you guys how we do that. So in Photoshop, I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. So you can use them if you want to. I'm going to talk about them. If you don't want to use them, that is 100% fine with me. It's just that I use them. So I'm going to be mentioning them, and don't worry about it if you don't want to use them, but it's a little bit quicker, right? And so in Photoshop, you can go up here to File. Whoops. Let's move me to another place so that I'm not in the way. There we go. So you go up here to the File menu, and you can say, Open. And if you hit Open, to give you some locations. The last place I was in Downloads, so here it is. One thing that's a little bit of a pain is that the images you've put in have whatever name the internet has given them. If you go in and say, go into this drop down and say icons, it'll give you what you want. You can also double drop down to date added. It's going to give you your top choices right up here at the top. Looks like this one is slightly larger. And maybe we'll open that one too. They're named different things, so looks like that's the one I have open. All right, so that's pretty much how you get them into Photoshop. The keyboard shortcut is Command N on the Mac, so that'll pop it right up for you. Another great keyboard shortcut I like to use is Control Tab. Control Tab goes through your open tabs. Really cool. We're going to start with the Cthulhu piece. Oh yeah, and then we're also going to open our third one, which is this one here. And this is a downloaded image of H.P. Lovecraft that, as I was saying a few minutes ago, I want to give him credit on my jacket. So we're going to cut that stencil, and we're going to paint it white on the leather jacket. Where on the jacket at the moment, I'm not totally sure. Running out of space. Which is kind of, cool, but that's what, that's one of the issues. So anyway, we wanted this one, we're just going to use for a straight cut project. We're going to go right over and cut this guy so that I can show you guys Silhouette software and that kind of stuff. But before we go to that, we're going to kind of jump through a few steps on cutting out that the Cthulhu symbol. I've already cut out the last one, so we're going to try it, we're going to try it again. Hold on just one sec, you guys. Sometimes you got to go back in here. I have to play music in my headphones because I got in trouble with Facebook for playing somebody else's music, which is totally fine. I screwed up 100%. So, want to see if I can find something that I haven't played. Any suggestions out there, you guys? I actually can't really read my comments while I'm in here. Hey, look at this. How about Christian hip hop? That sounds good, huh? Oh, we got all kinds of crazy stuff happening in here. World of... Oh, Skinnerd. Wow, interesting to see Misfits, Metallica, and Sepultura all on the same playlist. Is that possible? Let's see how it goes. All right, guys. Right back to it. Sorry about that. Fix my chair, get a little bit closer to you. All right. So another thing I wanted to show you guys is the I have AstroPad. Sorry, you guys. Here we go. Don't get old, okay? Don't get old. All right. All right. I wanted to show you guys for a sec what the AstroPad you know, what this is going to look like. Oh, did I do that wrong? Funny. You know, it's tech, man. It's like always something. That's not what we want. Just one sec, guys. Right now, all I'm doing is setting up switcher so that I can show you guys the screen of the iPad. This will just take one more sec, I hope. No, just keeps not wanting to do it. Let's try to share this device, and we'll add it. So let me show you guys what we're working on right now. All right, so the program that I use to produce this live stream is called Switcher Studio. Switcher Studio is not an inexpensive program. It's $39 a month, but it works really, really well to allow me to do multiple video effects and live stream from all Mac devices. So here I am using an iMac, an iPhone, an iPad, and 2 iPad Pros. So the deal is that the iMac is running my software applications like Photoshop and Silhouette. I'm using the camera here to broadcast. The device next to me is an iPad Pro Generation 2, which is running the Switcher Studio desktop dashboard. Above me is my iPhone 10X Max. That is my overhead shot that we're looking at on the desk right now. And then the last is a Generation 1 iPad Pro, which I'm going to use as an input device for Photoshop. And how to do that, I'm using AstroPad. So we're going to try to see if we can get this thing to work. And we're going to try to connect it. You can connect it both through the network or through its IP address. So I'm going to put that in. Just give me one sec. Hopefully this will work this time. There we go. Awesome. All right, you guys. Not what I wanted to do. Cool. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I'm always running into some kind of problem when I'm streaming to you guys. Oh man, it's totally ridiculous. Okay, so I think the first thing we're gonna do is working on our Chester Cheetah, piece. So we're gonna do that in Photoshop. So remember I said Control Tab. Whoops. Control Tab. Actually, let's start with this one. So we'll start with that one. What we're going to do is we're going to cut out the black, remove this stone kind of texture that the background has in it, and we're going to try to build a new stencil and take a look at islands and bridges and make sure that we can build the stencil how we want. My impression is that we're probably going to cut it into a couple of pieces, because clearly the outside would be one piece and the inside would be another, maybe multiple pieces. So we're going to take a look at how we want to do that. And I'm going to use my iPad as an input device. I will show you both of those things at the same time, like this. I got that. Oh, there we go. This one and this one. All right. And so you can see that my screen, which is the one on the left, And my physical screen that I'm looking at, and on the right is on the iMac. This is to show you guys, how straightforward the input kind of is. Seems like it'd probably make more sense to put to put my AstroPad, this one and this one. All right, so maybe this would be better. I think. Get a little closer. There we go. So you can see. One sec. Let's see if I can move that over. I guess I can't. So anyway, this is how I'm going to work on it, right? And it'll give me the input, and then over on the machine it'll work with it. Like you can do everything from zooming, switching tools, to really anything you want. It really, really works out. And this software, the mirroring software. Whoops. Turn this off for a sec and put this on. Sorry. All right. So this software is the AstroPad software. If you click on the side, it gives you some pop-ups. You can save your workspace. You can reduce the size of this menu on the side. The menu over here gives you a number of options related directly to Photoshop, like undo, redo, brush eraser. Raising and lowering your brush size and your zoom, creating new layers, that kind of stuff. Down here on the bottom is the option to launch a keyboard. Whoops. And to reduce the keyboard, you can also use your, set this up for your quick keys. Over here on the left, it gives you a shift, a control, an option, and a command key. These guys are all, stuff that we need when we're working quickly in Photoshop, so that we don't have to divert back to, back to the IMAX controls. We can mostly do everything here on this device. One of the things I really like about this is the option of being able to click move and zoom, and you can move the your screen around a little bit and make it slightly bigger. Up here is the option of 100%. That is too much, it looks like, or full screen. Full screen is what I normally work with, although I like to have Photoshop just a little bigger. And then you click the back button, and we're in here in the workspace. Click that and it goes away. Some other options that are in here is like pencil stroke options. You can kind of, that will show you what lines you're using when you're adjusting. Gestures are related to your fingers, settings, all that, the usual kind of stuff. And down here is a connection. One of the things about AstroPad, which is significant, is that you have to be on the same Wi-Fi. That's riding your Wi-Fi signal to connect to the other machine. So make sure that you have that. You see here that I'm working with the Apple Pencil without the cap on it. Don't do that. It's going to get broken easily. Unfortunately, my kids lose them, so I've taken them all out and put them away, which also means I've taken them all out and put them away, so I don't have any. But it doesn't matter, not particularly, as long as you're careful with it. Like I'm using the OtterBoxes, and they're pretty tough, and you'll notice that if you get underneath here, this spot right here is a holder for the pencil. So it's hard to lose. And unfortunately, that was a Generation 1 thing. Now Generation 2 doesn't have it anymore. So it's tremendously lame. The new one doesn't hold the pencil nearly as well. I drop it out all the time. It's tremendously inconvenient. All right, now I'm just rambling. All right, so we want to get in here and work on this piece right here. In full disclosure, I do have the Magic Keyboard here on the side near my left hand, so that if I need to use keyboard shortcuts, I can. You can of course use whatever you want in Photoshop. So there we go. Get in a little closer to the guy. Kind of like to go in here on move and zoom and try to make it a little bigger, because I like to be able to see the tools. Right? And you can make it just a little bigger within the software. You see here that I'm dragging it around basically. There you go. So I want to make the tools and stuff visible, but we wanted that to be as big as possible. You got to hit this back button or it doesn't institute the change. So here we have a much better bit of visibility. Kind of have lost a little bit of my layers over here, but we can also move the size of Photoshop a little bit. Hey. There we go. So this is a setup that I work with. If you guys hadn't seen that, what I just did, in Photoshop, you go up here to Window, and here it gives you workspaces. These are some workspaces that Photoshop has chosen. Essentials is what I feel like most of the people I know are working with. Totally fine, totally designed around these specific tasks. 3D is a new thing in Photoshop. It's kind of interesting. You can build 3D logos and 3D objects for the purpose of 3D printing or outputting to video game development, painting, obviously, photography, graphics and web. Takes the place of Save for Web, which was like a legacy action that existed back in the day that would compress the video that we were uploading or the graphic that we were uploading to allow it to be a streamless integration with the internet. In here the rest of this stuff, 3D motion is about creating motion graphics. Photoshop has recently added a timeline. Personally, I always tend to use something like iMovie for video editing, and then After Effects mostly for me, and Premiere to mess with video and animation clips. Photoshop is an awesome product. I always feel like, why do you guys have to add more stuff? I mean, they're trying to sell it, but what's funny is everything I use is Adobe products anyway. I have an Adobe subscription to the Creative Cloud, which is all their graphics products. You got me. You don't have to jam everything into Photoshop. Have more programs. Like right now, the Creative Cloud has an awful lot of programs. You know what I mean? Like, you take a look in here and you see like what they're offering. These are the programs that come with Creative Cloud. It's a really awesome, thing. Illustrator's in there, which is the go-to drawing program. I personally don't use it for that, but it's really awesome. InDesign, Premiere, Lightroom, all this stuff is free. It isn't free. It costs me, I think I'm paying $32 a month because I've been paying for the year. I bought the year with individual payments. Character animators right here. So there's more than enough ways to do stuff. You don't have to do everything in Photoshop. All right. So in here you can see that we're moving our cursor around, and I am using AstroPad to do that. So keyboard shortcut wise, over here we have what I like to call the selection tool, which is this one. You see there's some individual pop-ups under there. Object selection tool, that's a new thing. I haven't used it a lot. We may try it. We're going to use the Magic Wand tool, and the Magic Wand tool is W on the keyboard for wand. What the Magic Wand tool does is selects by color. So right now, we could take a look that it selected this interior thing. So why this looks so sloppy, I'm not totally sure. So I think what we'll do is Command D is deselect, or you can go up here to image, to select, reselect, or deselect to be in there. That one's not too bad. That looks pretty good. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this circle of black out. Now, how we're going to do that is we're going to create a new layer. Whoop, hold on just one sec, guys. Always something, just like I was saying. Ugh. Not cool. There we go. to throw this over here so I don't have to keep bothering you guys when I have to change my songs, which is totally ludicrous. There we go. Now you can see exactly what I'm working with. There we go. All right. So everybody knows exactly what David's doing. And keep track of me. I am currently listening to metal. I apologize. All right. So we got our outside selected. Oh, and our intention here is to build individual layers that we can fill and break up this composition into pieces, because it's a little complicated to use to straight up use as a stencil. So we're going to add a layer, Command Shift N. If you you can click this. You can click this plus sign down here, and that'll work out. But you can also do Command Shift N. You could also go up here to layers, and there's a new layer is right at the top. Like if you go up here to layer, new layer, right? So we just go new layer. We can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Circle 1. And we're going to go up here to Circle 1. We have this other guy selected. The paint bucket tool is G on the keyboard, or it's right over here. So you can just select that. So paint bucket tool is going to fill our selection, right? And we turn this off, and we have just the circle. All right. One thing I want to take a look at is the resolution of this image, because I feel like it looks a little not great. Now, if you look at the bottom left corner, you see that we're at more than almost 385% of the size of this graphic. So we are really close. Where if you select in here and put in 100, you see how small it is. So another thing to do is if you go up here to image and you go down to image size, it'll tell us what's going on. That is Control Option I. In here we got pretty low resolution, and its size is relatively small. Not going to do it much more than 6x6, so I think it's kind of fine. But I would like to bump up the resolution at least to 120. Now see, this will give us just a little bit more tight transitions of edge. We want our piece to be a little bit clearer, so that's important not to have anti-aliasing, and anti-aliasing is the stepping, as you can see the edges of the pixels. Adding more makes those steps smaller, which will allow our lines to be cleaner. So here, this image is a little bit on the small size to work on, so I can go into AstroPad and simply pinch and drag to bring this guy out. So now we put a circle that I don't really like up here under layers. So you can either right click on the layer. Where to go? And say delete layer, right? Oh, I guess I kind of thought there was a clear layer in there. That may be Procreate. So you can just jump over to E on the keyboard. E is your eraser tool up here, and the tools are right down here. The eraser tool is that one. It also has a number of tools under it: the background eraser, the magic eraser. I personally haven't used any of those except for the eraser. Up here you see the eraser's size. For the purpose of clearing an entire layer, we pretty much go really high. So right now, we simply go, right? You turn off this other layer and see if we missed anything. We totally did not. And we can go back to having our eraser be somewhere in the reasonable size. All right, so now we're going to go back down in here. You want to move your selection down there. We want to go back to our magic wand tool and select that circle again. We could, in theory, can't do that. Huh. That's selecting everything within. So we want to undo that. So undoing is a couple ways you can do it. You can go in here. This is how many things we've done already to this thing. You see if we go back, we just go back through what we did, and you can go back here and here, you know, and you see our circle is still there. Now, if you start working on the artwork here while you're within this drop down, it will delete everything through here and move our project back to this spot. We don't want to do that, so we'll stick back down here. This second magic wand was too much, so we go back one and we have just the outside circle selected. So pretty easy, you know, pretty straightforward. Photoshop can maintain about 1,000 actions in this layers panel. I mean, in this history panel. Pretty much an unbelievable thing. You want to make sure if you go into window that you set up. I mean, actually, I think it's in view. Thought it was in window. Oh yeah, there it is, history. Want to make sure you have that selected. Couple other things I like to add is this one, which is the navigator. This one here is a histogram. I don't use that so much. So these couple of pieces here I use. These swatches I use occasionally, and layers. So I don't really have a whole heck of a lot in here that I want to use. In here, we're going to go back in here just for a sec so I can show you what that looks like. New workspace. We're going to call it Toast 23 2. So now this setup here will stay, you know, like whenever I open Photoshop, it's going to look like this. You know, I feel like I really need more layers than I need colors. But what are you going to do? So anyway, we got that thing selected. So we go over to our circle one. Remember we were saying G, the keyboard shortcut, and then we just hit this circle, and then you'll notice if we turn this off, we have the circle. The circle will be stencil number 1, but we have to, once again, the eraser, we have to figure out a way to have it not fall apart. Now, I made a stencil yesterday of a circle. I can show that to you in just one second. Well, either way, it's pretty obvious how to use how to make a circle function as far as a stencil. We just have to decide what it's gonna look like and where the circle will be least affected by our trim. Now, unfortunately, these words go all the way around, so we're not going to be able to have a really clean place to go through. But so I'm thinking you just pick the most straightforward one. You know. There isn't even really another good space to put it in. So we'll put one here, which if you click and then drag and then click again, that's going to cut a line through our through this circle here. Now I feel like that one is way too small, so we're going to go up to something like 60. All right, so we're going to try that again. We're going to click. That might be too big. Let's try 50. If you look inside our size panel here, there's a slider. And you can either move the slider like this. And that'll reduce the size of our eraser. But I actually still think that's too big. So let's go in here and say 35. Which is bigger than the last one, you know. So over here appears to be just a dot. And then we can go all the way over here near also just a dot. Hold shift and click. That breaks us out. Command D is deselect. You see the dancing ants are gone. You can also go in here and say deselect. This circle right here will function as a stencil. You know, we won't lose the inside pieces or the outside pieces. And when we take a look at here, right, it's really only cutting out these circles, right? In fact, the best way to do that is to go right here with our marquee tool, which is M on the keyboard. And you drag like this. This will give us a square selection. Go right into where we trimmed, right? Add a new layer, which is Command Shift N. This one we're just going to delete, so we'll just do that. G on the keyboard for our paint bucket tool. Over here you can see our paint bucket is black, so that's what it's going to give us. On the new layer we click that, we turn off our circle, and we turn on this one, and you see that really we only cut out a very small portion of this lettering. You know, like this will be very easy to add with a paint marker. So that's, you know, that's how you can check and see how your stencil is building, right? So the Command D is deselect. We're going to turn that guy back on, and you can just either drag them to the bottom of your layers panel, if that's what you want to do, or drag them to the trash can, or simply select them and click the trash can. All right, so circle is finished. So now we want to go back in here to this guy and go back to the magic wand tool, which is again W. Click on if we click on the inside black, we can say, you know, like Command X, or you can go up here and say cut, right? Again, Command, you know, like the keyboard shortcuts are honestly just so much easier. So now Command Shift N, this time we want to say body, right? I was saying yesterday, you know, you can go in here and add whatever color you want, you know what I mean? Which is sort of fun, you know, like especially if you have a lot of different layers and you want to be able to pick one really quick. You can look down your list. Whoops, let's show you that again. Sorry about that. You can click on here, go down this list to the bottom where there's some colors, and you can color code your layers. I don't do that real often, but sometimes. All right, so we trimmed out our the character, and then we're going to go over in here. We can turn off our background layer for the moment. You can turn on the circle if you want to have the reference. You just have to make sure you're on the body layer. All right. So now you can do Command Paste, but if you do Command Shift Paste, you can do Command V, which is paste, or you can do Command Shift V, which is paste special, paste in place. So that's going to put it exactly where it was when you trimmed it. Is it a big deal? You know, not necessarily. It's kind of up to you, right? So now the only thing we didn't get is the two eyes. So we're going to go over here. We still have our magic wand tool. We can grab these two things. Unfortunately, you see it selects his whole head, the whole negative space. So we don't need that. What we need is to always make sure you're on your base layer. Hold Shift after you select one of them, right? Say, you can either say cut or copy. I copied to make the body, so maybe copy is the way we should go. I cut before because we didn't want the body, any of the body reference to be left. We needed just black and no background. All right, so we do the same thing, Command Shift V, which is paste in place. And this time we're going to go up here and we're going to do Command E, or if you go to Layer, you could say, where is it? They move things around a little bit. Down here, which is Merge Down, because we really want the eyes and the rest of the body to be on one layer, right? So Command E merges those two layers together. So now if we turn off our background layer, we have a very clean black and white layer, right? Now the only thing we don't have is our lettering. So we go back down to this spot, same magic wand tool, and we select it. Now the problem is, this job is going to be vast. So remember we talked about using our pencil. Here is our setup with our Apple Pencil, and this is going to be our input device. So, you know, that's how we're doing it. All right, so what we're going to do here is get in here and select the individual layers. Now you have to hold shift to do this unless you want to select every single layer. Now you can see looking at this and that, get in here really close to these letters. Now what's happening is we're getting small pieces of the letters. Right. Oh, get that. It's also pretty hard to see this close. All right, a little bit further. A little bit further. All right, there we go. Because too close doesn't allow me to see the the selection. All right, so we got like 2 of them. Looks to me like we didn't get this guy. Whoop. Oh, no layers are selected. All right. Got to make sure you're paying attention to everything if you can. All right. That was totally cheating using the trackpad. But really, you want to use everything at your disposal. You know, I like to tell the young adults that I work with, that there's always going to be somebody who can do something better than you. So if there's a tool out there that you feel like makes you better or makes your work better, do it. There used to be a lot of talk about cheating in art. You didn't really draw that. And first off, no one isn't using digital today. And second, who are you to judge? I mean, it's one thing if you're copying a photo. That back in the day, that's illegal. That's illegal. So that is the difference. You know what I mean? Like using a computer these days. This is what everybody's doing. So this input, as far as the pencil goes, is really better than using the trackpad. It's just a cleaner way to select. And then the quick keys that are on screen on AstroPad are really working out for me, because you can just sit here and hold shift instead of holding shift on the keyboard while I'm doing this selection. I could do it because the Magic Keyboard is Bluetooth, so it's loose, but this is just much easier and quicker. Like we just did, I don't even know what it is. It must be at least 25 letters. In what, a minute and a half, 2 minutes? All right, so now we want to go back a little. Oh. In the event you make a mistake, 2 fingers undo on AstroPad, or Command Z is undo on Photoshop. So what we can do here with Navigator is we can just jump back and we can see it. Now, as we said, that's still 300%, but it's all right. You know what I mean? So now we can cut this or we can copy it, right? I'm going to copy it. But we're going to do the same thing. Copy. Let's say undo. Copy. And then Command Shift N. Undo. Missed a step, right? Missed a step. So they're all still selected. Check, make sure. So now we need a new layer. Command Shift N. This one we will call letters. Can totally do that on the software, on AstroPad. I just didn't. All right, so now we got our new layer, and we're on it. So now we want to do Command Shift N. Oh, wrong one. Cancel. Command Shift V. Oh, did we do that on the wrong layer? All right, let's turn off our background layer, turn off our character layer, and turn off our circle. So now this is a super easy to cut stencil, because at the moment looking at it, there is literally 2 openings, that aren't clean. And I think that we could just go in there and cut them, right? And so we can use the E tool, the eraser tool. We want to make that eraser a lot smaller. I want to make it like a 10 because we are working in lettering, and so that stuff is tight. But if you look at some of the other letters, actually I want to make it even smaller. How about a 6? How about a 4? Let's try a 4. All right, so we click right there, hold shift, click right there. So now we've opened up that letter. You see over here, this R is already opened up and totally fine. We are still on the eraser. We can erase whatever that was. Take a look around our other letters. Oh, look, we got a B. Now that guy's open. These are some tiny, tiny cuts over here, so we're going to see how that works out. If this stencil doesn't work, it is what it is. So I just jumped over to the brush, which we want to bring down to around the same place. This right here is a hole that we don't want to have to make. It'll just make it too tight. You know, the stencil cut. Okay, everything else is pretty good. So again, you can go back in here and back out as much as you want, right? It'll click back to what we've been working on. Excuse me. How you guys holding up? We're about an hour in. Been going pretty fine. You know, now we got all 3 of our things on their own layer. The home, you know, the piece we started from, we've gotten everything off of it, and we've taken away the background. So now we really don't need this one anymore. So what we can do is grab this guy and drag him down here to the trash. So now we just have our black and white version, and everything looks pretty good. Like, take our letters away. The letters look totally fine. I think we can run that as a stencil. The circle looks totally fine, right? And so then that leaves us this one, you know, this right here. So the first thing that you have to look at when it comes to working with a stencil is how much, sorry about that, guys, which is how many islands and bridges do you have? Like, do you need to, is there a lot you need to cut? If we sent this through the cutter right now, it would cut out every line, leaving a lot of pieces falling apart. There's some places where we'd be fine, but there's some places where we'd have some trouble. You know what I mean? One of the really obvious pieces is the circle, right? So we just talked about what do we do to hold on to the circle, right? So if the cutter comes in and cuts this circle, everything inside of it is going to fall out. So what's the best way to go? Like, there's a couple of ways. Like, we can hit M, which is the marquee select tool, which is this guy up here that's selected. You hit Shift M, and now you get a circular selection. If you click and hold, whoops, I think it's Alt, Option, let's see. You can come out from the middle. Then if you hit Shift, you can make a circle. Problem I always have with these things is that I don't make them big enough. Deselect. So now, one sec. All right. So we can go over in here and using this tool, and we can hit what is it? Control, Command. I'm going to go with this one. As you start to drag it out, actually, why don't we just drag it out? You hold Shift, and that gives you a perfect circle. Problem I've always had is just making it the right size and moving it to where I want. Now a cool thing is that you can go up here to select and say modify and say contract. Whoops. What I did is I moved this around. I want it to stay right there. Let's see. Go in here for a second. Adjustments. Trying to remember where it is to make sure it's centered. Well, you know, sometimes you just can't find stuff. And it just is what it is. If you can't find something, you can go in here and say center image, and it might tell you. But a lot of times, for some reason, the help in Photoshop is the help for the whole internet. That is not what I need in any way. So anyway, we have this selection going right here, and we can see looking at it that it's a little bit too big in some places and a little bit too small in others. So we got to get it right where we want it to be. See, that just clicked. I don't know if you guys can see that. Photoshop gives you a little click to say that it's in the right place. If we jump over here to this guy, right now, we can't do anything because we have the selection. Right? So we say deselect, and then we go to this guy, and we could say select all. And that is totally centered. All right. So then we deselect, and we can go up here to our history, or we can go to select and say reselect. Oh, that's not it. Deselect. So we can do, you can't do it that way. You go in here and you say select canvas. Oh. Yikes, how far back do we have to go? There it is. So now you can use your the arrows on your keyboard to bring it in as tight as we can. Seems as though this right here is not a perfect circle. So we're going to fill this in with black, which we go back to the keyboard shortcut of G. We grab its own layer. Again, Command Shift N. And we're going to fill this with black. And then we're going to move it down here. All right. That didn't really work out. We could always take this opacity on this layer and bring it down here. Because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, we've already done that. So now we want to go to selection, modify, contract, and we can say how much we want that to contract by. And we can jump up here so that we're not. So let's say how much do we want it to contract by? How about 20? So we want to do that again, and we want it to be more like 40. We'll call it 40. Yeah. So then we want to go back down here to this one. That selection looks pretty good. Doesn't look a whole heck of a lot of center. I want to try to center it on this guy as much as we can, like that. I think that's too much. So we're going to go back up here to select, and we're going to say grow. Right, that takes us back out to the edge. And then you can go back into select, modify, contract, and this time we're going to go more like 20, which was what we had before. And let's undo that. And let's say, how about 15? And that gives us this sort of trim, which is going to allow us to cut out the edge of the body, which will open up some more space for us. Might have to go just a little. I think what we're going to do is reduce the size of. Anyway, we say delete. So now we have 2 layers, 2 circles. Turn this off and we see what we have. We go in here and put this layer back up to 100. So now we have our outside layer, our inside layer. And if we throw this Cthulhu on, we can see a spot where we could cut our layer, right? So we want to say deselect. We want to grab our brush tool, our eraser tool, excuse me. And right here, we want to bring our eraser back up to, what did we say it was? 40? All right, let's see how big that is. Oh, way too big. Maybe it was 20, 30? 20. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Click anywhere back here and your brush menu will close. So for this one, we could turn this on for the purpose of showing us where we want to cut. Click, shift, click. Now we've got that cut right there. Turn this one off. I guess we have to turn this one off because that also has a background. And then we're going to go over here and click, shift, click. Whoops, we're on the wrong layer. No, that's fine, I think. Yeah. Another one we'll do here. Click, shift. Because we don't need all that, all that information can be trimmed away. Cool. So now we could take away the 2 circles, right? We turn this guy off and we have our 2 circles to make the outer edge of this thing. And just so you guys can remember what it was we were looking at, you can take a look here. We have an outside and an inside circle. We will have to touch up our stencil effects, but already we're getting there, right? Hey, where did our letter layer go? Oh, there we go. We also have our letter layer, which is also going to be pretty easy to cut out. That's it. That stencil is going to work totally fine. No overlaps, anything. The only thing I'm worried about is that some of them are a little bit small. But again, I'm not wicked worried about it. We're going to try to do these a reasonable size. I think it's probably be something like, maybe 8 by 8. All right, so these are all looking good. So we got our layers laid out. We're going to call this guy circle 2. Right, so now we got circle 1, circle 2. And maybe we'll move these guys together. There's a cool thing in Photoshop called grouping. We don't have to use it here, although both of these are circles. But it's a way to do an adjustment on multiple layers at once. It's a way to keep conceptual ideas together. For example, like these 2 circles are circles, so we could justify leaving them that having a file with them in it. We could actually cut both of these at once because they would stay together pretty well. I don't think I'm going to do that necessarily, but we'll kind of see what happens. So now we got our letters in there, which actually look like maybe the inner circle is a little too big. How can we fix that? Let's try this. W. I mean, we're doing them separate, but I don't want them to be on that line. All right, we'll turn off our letters layer. Just have this, deselect. We want to select this one. Whoops. On the wrong layer. Wonder if we can reduce our selection. No pixels are selected. Interesting. Maybe we just can't do that, which is all right. You know, I'll figure it out in another way. Same error. Okay. All right, so that's the layer we're on here. Anyway, maybe we could make it slightly bigger. Transform. So transform is a great way to adjust the size of something that you're working on. But the problem is if you're not careful, you can change like the shape of what you're working with. So that just gave us the circle at 110%. After you're done, you hit enter. So then we can grab our other circle and see that they're pretty close together. I think this inside circle is just too thick. Because if we bring in this guy and our letters, see this guy out here is too big. You know, I think we're going to just not mess around with this guy for a few. Whoops, not that one. This one. We have our letters. If we leave that circle out, and you know that it works really well, and then if we place this guy in here, it works well. So we're just going to sweat that. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in here to work on the character himself. So we can get rid of our circles and our letters, and now we have just this guy. So you can imagine looking at it, there's a few pieces that are going to fall apart as we start to cut the stencils. What we're doing is trying to get the stencil to draw the black, obviously. And so since that is the deal, you got to think that the stencil's very first thing is going to be a cut around the edge of this circle. So the first thing we want to make sure we do is make sure it doesn't do that. Try not to drop your supplies mid-stream. Excuse me. All right. Tell you, the reflection from this light is a serious inconvenience. There we go. Got some light, but I can still see. Can you guys see me? All right, cool. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to hit B on our keyboard. Get on the layer we want to work on, and the same exact thing we've been doing, which is creating islands and bridges, right? So we want to, with our, we want to use our eraser tool, which we already selected, and go in here and just erase a small section. I think we're going to need our eraser to be just a little smaller, so we're going to say maybe 15. All right, so we already got that guy. So now if it cut this circle, it would cut over a number of other spots. We want to basically cut up each of these where there's nothing, where it's easy enough to get in and make an adjustment. So think about the machine moving around, opening up these areas. I want to give it as much of a chance as possible to be able to keep things together. You know, like this piece in here totally will work with this opening, right? Until it gets over here. And then it starts to free other pieces in a significant way. So we want as much as we can to open this stencil up to be able to go from point A to point B, as they say. Another thing to consider is how much drawing you're going to have to do to repair, the stencil. We could break this piece down into a couple of stencils and then register them together. Not the end of the world. It's actually kind of an easy and interesting thing to do. But first we're going to kind of try it this way and see what happens. So right now we have the edges of this, the circle kind of worked out. So now we're looking at this piece is going to be cut out, so we'd have to do this. And then we're looking pretty good around this area, but these two pieces would fall out. You want to open that up. So now down here is not looking bad. You know, each of these small bumps or are going to be an opening. So that will be a problem. We can put another mark there because we're already using that one. Here, here. Get in a little closer. Make our, well, actually we kind of got to keep it the same size. We want to open up this spot here. Whoops, definitely too big. Maybe we should think about doing this in a different way. Yeah, let's try this in a slightly different way. We could cut pieces off, and I think they'd be a little bit easier. All right, so we go in here to our drop down, to our history, and we want to go all the way back to layer visibility. Click on our, okay. We want to be here. Still got to get a little bit closer. All right, so now we're going to try something a little different. We're going to use the lasso tool, which right now I have the polygonal lasso tool on. As you can see over there in the corner, polygonal lasso tool selects, sorry about that. Polygonal lasso tool selects, you know, square objects. We don't want that. We want the physical lasso tool like a rope, like the Old West. So you hit Shift L, and that'll go through your options and give us the lasso tool. All right, so what we're going to do with the lasso tool, I'm thinking, is we're going to go right in over here. And we're going to take his head off, including the circle, and put it on a different layer. Right, so then the keyboard shortcut is Command C for copy, and then we would add a new layer. We would drop this away, add a new layer, bring this up, Command Shift V. Drop that away. All right, so now we can turn off this body and see that we've got his head there. All right. And if that piece was the only thing we were cutting out for a stencil, that could totally work, right? So same thing, we want to go back into our eraser tool on the new layer we created and cut that out there. We already talked about cutting this out here. All of this large piece would be fine. This circle would be fine because they're all connected to one larger piece. You know what I mean? So we could go through like that. And that'll give us a hanger there. These guys will come down. Nothing makes me crazier than when you finish making a stencil and you've left like tiny little marks and the cutter is trying to figure those out. Let's put one here too. I think that could work. So we turn that one off and turn this on. So we've taken his head out. Next thing I think would be his body. So we're going to go back to our lasso tool. And this time we're going to go right in here. Piece right there. I'm going to go into it and say we should probably cut it just so we can see the pieces that we've used. Now while we have this open, we can say Command Shift N, Enter, and then we can do Command Shift Paste. Alright. Oh! Now we do Command Z, because we screwed that up. Alright. So now we turn off our body layer and we see that we have this piece here, and we'll use our eraser again. And we just clean up a little, like that piece right there. Whoop. What am I using here? Yeah, my eraser. Alright. There we go. Now we want to leave that section of side there. This piece here is where his wings are going to come out. So let's take a look at this and see what we can kind of make happen with this. These bumps along his back are going to be a problem because these bumps are very small circles, and when you try to cut them out, they're going to drop away, and we're not going to have anything to hold them in there. So we have to decide how best to deal with that. I think the first thing we have to do is we have to open up right here so that it gives us one support there. We could probably do another one right there. That gives this larger area something to hold on to. Probably the same there. This guy's open. Guy's open. Alright. Now we gotta kind of decide what to do with these bumps because they're inconvenient, you know. So I think we're gonna go in, but we want to go down to a 10. Guys, see this okay? Getting there. You know, like, this is funny because I feel like this particular piece looks like nothing on screen right now. But, you know. Okay, so we keep taking a look at it and seeing what stuff is going to cause pieces to drop away. I think these guys here are going to be our big issues. Can always fix this later. So now those are all opened up. We got a lot of pieces that are going to be okay. Yeah, looks pretty good. I'm a little worried about his toes here, I guess, or that piece. Looking pretty good. I think everything is supported by something else except this one, which does open up there. I feel like there will be a problem. Alright, so now we can turn this one back on and turn this one on, right? And then just take a look and see what these two look like together. And they look fine. You know, like this adjustment here is totally not a big deal. So we can turn those guys off and go back in here. Now we have everything that we need except his wing. And let's take a look at how far that bottom half goes. Alright, so dropping this out really helps us see what we haven't done yet. We can go back to our lasso tool. and grab this right here. Right. On that layer. Command cut. Command shift in. We can call it wing. Enter. And then command shift V, which is paste in place. So now we take a look at what we got there. Right, we take it away. And we got wing, head, and body. So now the wing section is the next piece we want to take a look at and see what we can figure out to make this one work. We're back on the eraser tool. We want to pull a little line there because there's a lot going on through here. Pull a line there. There, so the two pieces are together. There, because we can always fix that. There. Looks like nothing is standing totally alone. I worry that these cuts here are a little small, so let's go back over those few. There you go. I want to go up here and have our eraser be more like 20. So we erase. It's a legitimate spot that the cutter can hold on to instead of something artistic but too small. Too close. Looks pretty good. You guys see anything? Did I miss anything? It looks pretty good. Look at this piece and that piece, and looks like most of everything is going to be okay. I feel like this one here promises to be a long, thin piece. Looks pretty good. I guess everything here looks pretty good. So then if we put these guys back together, we got that stencil. All right. So that is basically, we get rid of, put this body stencil on, and you can see where we're at. These are all cut up to run. I will probably cut them one at a time. Because they're really built around cutting one at a time. Yeah. So anyway, we'll cut those guys one at a time. So the next thing I wanted to show you, since we're cooking along, if you can believe that, is how we're going to run this stuff over to the cutter. So we're going to have to look at another program. This guy is pretty much all set. So we want to say Command Shift N or File Save As. For this one, we're saving. What is it? Saving to here. I guess that's where we have some of the other ones. So we're going to call that. What do we call it? There we go. All right, so now we can put away Photoshop for the moment. You have to set up hide Photoshop. Come on, dude. Oh yeah. Shift Command A. Shift Command H. Huh. All right, so we don't need that guy. The next software we're going to work with is called Silhouette Studio, and it's a little bit of a different program. This program is a proprietary program from Silhouette Studio, which is the developer of the program. This is one of the other stencils that I've made, that we've made. I made yesterday. If you click Command New, this will give us this pop-up. You can take a look at these other guys. There we go. This is everything I worked on yesterday. So we're going to leave those open because these are all things I need to cut, but this is the new composition that we're working on here. Kind of have to decide how big, we're going to want this image to be. This piece of paper, this setup here, assumes the paper is 8.5 wide. Excuse me, 8.5 wide. So that's as big as we can make it. But I don't think we really want to have this symbol be 8.5 wide. As at the beginning I was saying, like 6 might be pretty good size, right? So taking a look at our ruler here, you can see that this is 12, this is 6. That's a circle 6 by 6. So that basically makes our circle this big. Is it huge? No. Is it kind of good size? Yeah. So we got to grab the jacket and see if that's too big. Hold on one sec. I got to grab that. Hey guys, sorry about this crazy iPhone thing, but this is what we're going to do for just 1 second. All right, so we're going to bring, whoops, hope you guys can't see that. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this stuff. We are live right now. All right, done. So we're going to go over and take a look at the jacket and just see how big of a space, that we have to work on. All right. So we got to flip our screen here. All right. So this is the jacket that we're working on. Like there's the Cthulhu part, and here's the sleeves, right? So the area we're going to work on is actually on the other side, but it's basically the same size. So where we want to put our artwork is right here in that spot. Oops. So take a look at it, and 6 is dramatically larger than the space we have here. So it looks like total it's 5. So we're going to probably have to do something along the, maybe 5 by 5 size. I don't mind going over here a little bit. But we basically have wing and stuff coming in. So if we go 6, it's going to take up a pretty good amount of space there. Whoops. So 6 would bring us to here from the seam. And then 6 would probably, like if we assumed we'd centering there, right? So that would be our center line. And that would be C6. And then we do the same up here. C6 really comes low. But I think 6 by 6 is as big as we could go with either of the stencils. So I think that that's what we're going to have to do. Whoops. Sorry about that, you guys. I hope it didn't make anybody sick. Zooming around, you know, I don't care for it personally, you know, but I did want to be able to show you guys what we were, where it's going to go. I can't put it out here right now because we have to finish building the stencil and setting up the cut file. We're going to finish setting up this one. We're going to set up the HP Lovecraft one, run that through the cutter, and that'll probably be all the time we have. And then I'll be back tomorrow on Facebook Live on the Greenhouse Graphics page, and we will air paint tomorrow. Okay? All right. So let's get this over here a little bit. So now we're assuming that this guy is 8.5 by 11, and now we want this particular image to be 6 by 6, right? So first thing we got to do is do Command O, or you can of course go File, Open. The open, you know, here we have the stuff that we worked on already. In here we have our Creative Cloud documents. What the heck is that? Let's jump back over here and see that we save this as. Oh, actually, you know, I like to save. I like to save these. That was crazy. What is happening? That was really crazy. I actually like to save each of our stencil layers out one at a time. I kind of forgot to do that. So this one we've saved. And save. Where did we save it to? We saved it to Cloud Documents, Photoshop Cloud Documents. There. Actually, why don't we do this? Shift Command Save. Let's throw this guy on the desktop also. And not in downloads, in Cthulhu Leather. Say okay. Okay, so we have that piece in there. And then we're going to want to pull out these one at a time, right? So the first thing we want to work with is our large circle. Make sure that works, you guys, and our letters. Yeah. Yep. So those are the pieces that we want to use. So we're actually going to delete this that layer there, which is our letters 2 layer. We could pull this guy out. So we're going to start with this circle, right? And we're going to, if you hold Option and you click that, it turns off everybody else. So you're good to go. And we want to do Command Shift S, which is Save As. We're going to go on our computer in our Cthulhu Leather section. We want a folder. We want to make it a JPEG or a PNG. Yesterday I made them PNGs. Doesn't really matter which one you want to do. It mostly doesn't matter what you want to save it as. You know, you can save it as whatever you want. JPEG is fine. You know, it's not huge and it works fine in the software. So for this, we're going to say symbol 2. Okay, and we're going to call it and then you just hit enter again. So now that's going to save that out. So then we could turn that one off and go with our however you want to do it. So this one we want to show, I want to say Command Save on our computer. Same place, it's going to default to that folder. We just go in here like that. You can click on the last one you set up. It'll give you most of your text. This one we're going to call Wing. And then you just hit enter again. So now we turn that guy off and go in here, click on that, Command Shift S or File Save As. Same deal with this one. Make sure you make it a JPEG. JPEG 2000 is in there. I have no idea what that means. We're far past 2000 now. What do we need it for? In the Cthulhu leather, and now it's we're going to save that one. We'll call that one head. Enter again. So now we turn that guy off and go with this one. Command Shift S, your computer, Cthulhu leather. That was wrong. You do something enough times, you forget what to do. So we want to go back in here and erase that we put there and make it a JPEG. Enter. All right. Now we go back to our friend Silhouette Studio, and we take a look at our options here, and we see that all of those pieces are in there. All right. So now one of the things is going to be to rebuild these things on one surface, and make sure they're the size that we want them to be, and that kind of stuff. So first we're going to open this guy, and like we said, we're going to make him 6 by 6. So if you look down here at the bottom, you can see right now he's 8.89. You can drag right up to 6, right? I think you can also go up here if you don't feel like dragging and make it 6 by 6. You want to make sure you have your two so it looks like it's just off square, but that doesn't really matter. So we got it 6 by 5.95. Right? Not a big deal. Pretty much right where we want it to be. So 6.6 is just the right spot. But you don't want to cut it up here, because this is going to make your stencil pretty small and hard to work with. So you want to sort of center it on your stuff. Now this background, the grid that we're looking at here, are 1-inch squares. This makes it real easy. These are also 1-inch squares to to get right where you want it to be, right? So this line right here, these larger squares are 1 inch. Individuals are clearly half. So I've brought it down about 1/2 inch, and that's how big we want it to be. All right. Very easy, because we can make all of them, the squares that we're bringing in, each that size, right? So then we can say open, Command open, and we want to open our next 2 symbols. 3, I guess. Say open, right? So now these guys are all in their own layers, right? In their own compositions. So we can mess with these guys as much as we want. So same thing, you see that it's 8.9 by 8.8. We want to flip that first, make this 6, hit enter, and we get exactly the same size. Same thing we were doing is bring it up to about the 1-inch spot. Right. We can also jump back here and take a look at the circle. For the circle, let's go like a full inch in, and I wonder if there's a location. Looks like we can make it get 1 inch all the way around. All right. Hey, we got this little guy saying it's low resolution, but we're pretty much okay, because I'm going to go down a full inch and over a full inch. Is not what I said. Let's see. full inch, over a full inch. And that puts them in the same place. Thought there was layers in here, but I guess there isn't. I wonder what happens if you go in here and say this. Oh, look at that. Undo. Ah, they become one thing. Huh, interesting. We learn something new every day. So same deal with this one. You want to select it. It's pretty much the same size. We want this to be 6. Right? And then we want it to be 1 inch over and 1 inch down. So that it's right in the same place. All right. And then we just click away, and then we go into this one, same deal, click on it, there we go, keep it in the same place, 1 down. How much these, to be honest with you, how tight these locations are and are cut only matters so much. Because we're going to place these together, right? But the reason we're doing it in this way is so that all of the pieces are the same size. You know what I mean? Like, we need to have them all be the same size. We can rebuild them in here, rebuild the full stencil and work with it like that, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. We don't want to use all of our stencil material either, so I think we might change the size of our media. We'll figure that out. So I think we got everybody. That's just nothing. So it looks like we got body, wing, head, circle. So now we should be able to see everybody. Oh, there we go. What happens if we align center and go to each one? So I think all of them are centered on what we have for media, which is just what I wanted it to do, you know. Cool. So now the next thing that we have to do is we have to trace each of these, because we can't send this file to the cutter. We want to send it something a little simplified. So we want to take that folder, that panel away, and go in here and open the trace panel. First thing in the trace panel is this select trace area. We want to try to stay inside the outer square because the outer square will be cut as well. If you want that, that's fine. I don't want it because I want it to stay a part of the larger piece of material. Looking at this right here, we're going to have to move it up. So then once you have it there, you say trace. Once it's traced, you grab the artwork and move it away, and you take a look at it, and you see that that's our cut file. Not quite that close. Doesn't want to get away, I guess. Right, so that's going to be our cut file. So it's going to cut all this out, and that information there we want all black. That's his feed and stuff. And looking at it right now, I think it's going to hold together, you know, just fine. It might be a little challenging to pull because there's some small pieces in there. But I think it's going to be fine. It's going to leave us those openings that we need. There's an option here. You can click on this and drag, and it allows you to get quickly back where you were. There's also this option here, which simply takes us back. You know, if you were like out here, I think you go this way. Hey. All right. Anyway, you just click this guy and he brings us back to here. All right. So now we got that trace done. We go into this one, hit the same thing, drag in here, tells us that, trace, grab the artwork and move it away. So now we have his wing. Come in here, select trace area, his head, and go trace, drag the artwork away. I'm in here, trace area. This one's a little harder because we're inside the square. I gotta move it over a little. Make sure you get, you know, everything. Because if not, you're going to regret it. Okay, so then we say trace. This one's done too. And now we go through in each of these and save them. I'm going to call it symbol 2 circle. Next one. Next one. Naming them first was a good deal. All right. So now we got all those in there. Next thing we want to open. In here, we want to go into downloads. So this is a stencil file that I found online. Obviously, it's too big. So what we can do is we can bring them down to the same size we were working with on the other ones. Whoops. So we want to lock that up and go in here and hit 6. It's going to move them down to a real reasonable size. Whoops. It's significantly taller. So let's call this like 8. All right, so 8 inches by 6 is tall. So I think we're going to make it even smaller. There's not a lot, there's nothing that I need to do to adjust this. So, whoop. There we go. We can get in here a little closer to look at the job we're working on. So the deal we discovered with this is to center on our paper. Looks like you can center on the side too. That is center on our whole sheet. That is using a full 8.5 and 11 sheet just for this. Wonder if there's a way to rotate it. So we just have to drag it, and it gives us a little click there too. All right. Funny there isn't like a rotation key up here. Huh. I feel like there would be. Yep. No more options, but it will let us throw things on top of each other and, you know, that kind of stuff. So in any case, we got this guy flat right where we need him. We bring him down 1 inch and over 1 inch as much as we can, right? So this is going to leave us more than half of our material to use for something else. This is kind of a good deal. You know what I mean? So we want to go over here to the design page, close up our trace panel for right now, and go bring in our page setup, which is panels, page setup. Now we're going to reduce the size of this by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, 6. So we're going to call it height 6. With the same. Let's undo that. All right, so that's cool. Like, that'll not make us lose too much space. You know, now we just go in here again and say center and center. So there we go. Now we got a dead center in the middle of the surface we want to cut with. Now the paper I'm going to put in the stencil is larger than that. We're just going to, that's just going to be our, how much of the pixel, how much of the surface I want to, how much of the material I would like to use. All right. This right here is the mat. Oh. All right. Hey, that camera's upside down again. Is it? Yeah. Sorry, guys. Stuck it in there upside down. So this surface here, you know, this is what we put into the cutter. I'm using laser printer transparency film. Found this at a flea market for, I don't know, a quarter maybe. I've been using it for months, years actually. So this surface here is sticky. And we use it for getting, you know, it holds onto our media. Yesterday I cut a couple of stencils. Just got to pull off the pieces that I missed when I was cleaning it up. It's sticky, I think, for a couple of reasons. Number one would be to hold your media in place. But number two would be when you pull a stencil from here, the interior pieces tend to stay. And this makes picking your stencil quicker and easier. This part, you know, whatever. You do have to do this part, but it's not a big deal. All right, so once we get our surface cleaned up, just grab one of these sheets. They're basically acetate. They're like slightly thicker. I think they're, I can't remember the weight. Let me see if it says here. No. Anyway, they're not heavy. They're like a lightweight plastic. You know, I really wish you guys could see this stuff is clear, so it makes it a little bit challenging to see. You can go either direction. I just like to have the word at the top. So we place this guy in here. You want to be as square as possible, of course, because the machine doesn't know if you've put the plastic in wrong, but you will. It's pretty easy if you get the corner. You just get your corner in there. You want it to be real flat. Right? And I guess I could show you guys feeding the machine, but I don't know how interesting that is. You know what I mean? Do you think you guys are interested in seeing that? All we do is feed this into the machine. Yeah? No? We're going to not do it. Well, that's not true. I want to show it to you guys. So. All right, you guys. All right. So, you know, I'm going to take a step away from my desk for a sec here. You can see all my ridiculous junk that's laying around. So this is the tool this is what we're going to use to do our cutting. This is a Silhouette Cameo Generation 4. Super cool product. you can see that it's kind of straightforward. It works on the same idea as a printer with a knife instead of a gun. Right? So all we do is we place this, our cutting mat, into the front of the machine. We press this load button. It'll load it up, and pretty much everything is controlled from our machine. So it's pretty good, and it's pretty good deal. So we're gonna, once we have the software loaded in there, once we have the media loaded in there, we're pretty much good to go. You know, all we need to do is send it to the silhouette. I just wanted to show you a couple of final setup pieces since we're just over by 1 minute here. But we're gonna finish up, I feel like, before then. All right. Upside down again. Sorry guys, I am forever putting this in here upside down. Oh. And closing it. Okay, so there we are back on our work surface again. We have placed the unit in there, and now we're going to run the cut settings. So here we go. You ready for this part? All right, so back in the Silhouette software, everything is set up. Like I said, we reduced the size of our media. These things are automatic. The Cameo 4, the auto, cutting mat that it knows came with it. And this is the media size, which is custom because we created it to be media size, our own thing. So now you can either go to your panels menu, or you can look up here. This is design. That will give us this pop-up store. They sell a number of cut styles, cut projects, all that kind of stuff at Silhouette. I'm not particularly interested in any of those things, but if you are, you totally can. I am really only using this for exactly what we're doing here today. So I don't really use that. And then if you bought something, it would be here. I think possibly if you went inside here, you'd maybe see some of our stuff. Obviously through that setup, it didn't save any of my stuff, but I kind of save everything on here, all my compositions, to somewhere on my device. I'm not just throwing them away or trusting that they'll go into some kind of library. If you click the send button, it pops up this dialog box. All right, now this is there's some stuff going on here. So you want to take a look at it, right? So we're cutting on acetate sheets. Ironically, that is the single thing I need this software to do, and it doesn't come with a preset for cutting acetate sheets. Totally no problem. Messed around with it, figured out the best way to go, totally fine with it. I think it's just going to be fine. I did several yesterday, as I said, and they worked out great. So all you do is you hit send. It's going to cut that just like that, now that it's a traced file, and it'll give us a stencil of H.P. Lovecraft's face. Makes some cool sounds. What happened there? What happened? Just one sec, guys. No, it isn't complete. Huh. Interesting. What happened there? is it saying that? That's weird. It is not done. Alright, our carrot's one, everything's all set. Alright, now we don't need that. Interesting. Don't know why it's doing that. But it isn't. Oh, let's try closing this bad boy up and open them again. Okay, so let's say new. Open. Okay. I think that it's for some reason not getting the selection or something. Of course, it's always something. Let's see. Let's just cut edge. Got that. This one I go one. It went for the test. Ah, there we go. Sorry about that, you guys. You know, it's always something, right? Here it goes. Now, what's a cool thing is that it gives me a time. What does that mean? Gives me a time for how long it's going to take to cut. So hopefully it'll cut real quick, because down here all it says is less than a minute at this point. It's fun to hear the device working, especially since we were just having the problem where it didn't want to work, which I have no idea why. I think possibly I had it simply selected the wrong material. You have to check through the materials to see if there's one that fits what you're working with, or create one. There is quite a few. I know there's probably 30 or 40 in there. So now it's saying cutting complete. Machine ready. And it cut nothing. Why is that? One more sec, guys. All it cut was the inside. Auto cut. Let's try that. Oh, I think we just did create a new one, right? Let's check what the internet says real quick. We don't need to do that right now. Let's just try one more thing. Given us as this background. Oops, undo, delete. Let's try open again. All right, so let's try this again. Oh, that didn't work. Let's see what happens if we just just want to get this turn straight. Go. Okay, so let's try this. Not a trace. Again. Weird. Don't understand. Okay. Just don't understand. Hmm. Well, I don't want to waste you guys' time hanging around here. We will talk more about cutting stencils when I figure this out. I appreciate you being a part of my live stream. You know, we're here every Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 3. If you guys are around, please come on and check it out. And I'd love to hear from you guys. If anybody has any comments or anything like that, please let me know. And I will talk to you later. I will be back tomorrow when we'll be spraying the other symbol that I built yesterday on Facebook. So tomorrow from 12 to 2 will be on Facebook. It's the Greenhouse Graphics page. If you like the page and go to videos, it'll have live stream as the key at the bottom. So